On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder thump the Denver Nuggets. What was the most exciting part of the preseason, and is the Thunder three-point shooting real?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and Thunder on SI beat writer, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Allergies have gotten the best of me, but the show must go on. Joining us today is Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer, 1077 The Franchise, and you can find him, of course, on KREF as well. Brandon, you're all over the place. You're back on this pod to double dip the recap pods as we did last Wednesday. This one, similar results, although the Thunder consistently thumped Denver instead of just with their regulars in the first half against Houston. How you doing, Brandon?
I am good. The regular season is getting closer and closer, and tonight was kind of fun because it was a reminder of how close the real season is, because it's going to be the same two teams 1 week and 2 nights from tonight. Same arena, much different atmosphere, much different players on the Denver side. But yeah, I'm excited to get the season going.
They're going to run it back, and the only bad part is they got stuck with the Thursday game. Great for national television, but we've got to watch Tuesday hoops, Wednesday hoops, and then it's the Thunder's turn in Denver. Brandon, let's start the same way we did Wednesday with the full complement of players available tonight for OKC, of their regulars who are healthy. It was a different starting five than last Wednesday. It's Hartenstein and Chet starting together with Dort, J-Dub, and Shai on the perimeter. Did the Thunder tip their hand? Did they keep everybody on their toes? What do you make of the Thunder starting five?
You can look at it two different ways. You could look at it, hey, this is going to be a matchup-dependent starting lineup, and Mark Daigneault will switch it up and keep it fluid based on the matchup. And, I don't know how privy to the Denver starting lineup they were before they decided that they were going double bigs, and, of course, they didn't end up playing Jokic. So would the decision have been different? I don't think so. I think that they just decided they were going to start iHeart tonight. The other way you can look at it is, the Thunder are just going to keep you guessing, and they just want to keep everybody guessing. They want to keep the Nuggets guessing because they're their opening night opponent. So I still think that Caruso is going to start the majority of games, and Hartenstein will come off the bench for the majority of the games. I would not be surprised to see the starting lineup, switch up some, be a little bit fluid, be somewhat matchup dependent. But I do think tonight I don't think they were trolling us with the starting lineup and saying like, hey, you thought it was Caruso. Hey, now it's Hartenstein. But I do think that they just want to keep, everybody guessing.
Brandon, are you a Big Brother fan, the show Big Brother?
I am not a reality TV fan. I'll be honest. Like, my reality TV is sports, like football and basketball. I love TV, but it is all scripted and all fiction.
On Big Brother, the host, Julie Chen Moonves, always says in the Big Brother house, you have to expect the unexpected. And that's the same model the Thunder starting five is going to be. I think that, you can swing the pendulum one way on Wednesday against the Rockets. Okay, this is the starting five. It's going to be Caruso in place of Giddey, and they're just going to basically run back last year's success with a much better fit. Then you can swing it the other way of now they have this advantage of playing big. They're going to do that. I think that ultimately your base starting five will typically be Caruso next to the core four of Shai, J-Dub, Chet, and Dort. But like opening night, whenever Denver has everybody back, and that Denver starting five, when it's healthy, will include Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. That is a prime game to start Hartenstein and move J-Dub to the three and blanket those three and counter them with your traditional power forward plus two bigs. So even though I think Wednesday Hartenstein will start, I still fall in the camp of Caruso being the main starter.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I land too. I think for the majority of games, Caruso will start. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some double big lineups to start games throughout the season, and they go matchup dependent. And maybe this was a kind of tipping the cap as far as that goes, and letting you know, hey, we will kind of keep this fluid. Maybe it's usually this, but sometimes it will be this. The good thing for the Thunder is they have options, and really either lineup makes sense. Like you can make an argument for why the Caruso lineup should be the main starting lineup, but you could make just as valid as an argument that the Hartenstein lineup should be the main starting five. And I think either argument is a good one. It just kind of shows the versatility that this Thunder team has, not only with the starting lineup, but you get 6, 7, 8, 10 deep, and there's all these different lineups that Daigneault can throw out, and he did some of that tonight.
I think he did that tonight. I think that when you look at these lineups, it can look the way we've described these two lineups. I also am not ready to abandon the fact that they're going to go small, like completely small. Tonight, it got scrutinized because your small ball five is Dillon Jones and Ousmane Dieng. But when that small ball five is Jay Will and Kenrich, we've seen the Thunder have success with that model a year ago. And I don't think the addition of Hartenstein will just completely abandon that strategy. Where do you fall on small ball?
If there's something I know about Mark Daigneault and lineups and rotations, it's that he likes data. He likes throwing out lineups of different players, playing with other players, and seeing what the data says, seeing what the lineups say. And so I'm with you. I don't think that small ball just ends. Now, I think the majority of the time we'll see one or both of Chet or Hart on the floor. But I think there will be times where the Thunder will go small with either Kenrich or Dieng or Dillon Jones possibly playing the five, or Jay Will once he's healthy. And Jay Will, obviously he played center last year. I still think he is more of a 4, but a small ball 5. So I think we will see that. So yeah, I'm with you on. I don't think that small ball has died just because the Thunder have gotten more size.
What possibly has died is the Thunder being in the bottom half of 3-point attempts per game. We'll talk about if this shooting stroke is real coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at FanDuel. Check out FanDuel right now because the season is right around the corner. Of course, football's in full swing. You can go bet on spreads, player props, over-unders at America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. And right now, if you go to FanDuel.com and you place a $5 bet, you will have $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, you're going to get that money back to you from FanDuel with that $5 bet. But if you're only into the NBA, not only can you bet on future things such as Shai winning MVP, the Thunder winning the West, you can also bet on opening night, where the Thunder are still 2.5-point underdogs in Denver. We just saw these two match up somewhat tonight. If you like that line, go jump over to FanDuel today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Joining me today is Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer. I'm Rylan Stiles, Thunder on SI beat writer, host here of Locked On Thunder, your teams every day. Go check out Locked On NBA for the national landscape of basketball. But Brandon, a constant theme throughout preseason, throughout training camp has been Mark Daigneault absolutely, blatantly calling out that the Thunder need to shoot more threes, specifically J-Dub and Aaron Wiggins. But that message has seemed to seep through to SGA as well, and to this Thunder team as a whole, which a year ago was the best three-point shooting team by percentage, but 16th in the NBA by attempts. And so, yes, you might lose some of that percentage, but if it's because you're taking more attempts per game, then it nets you more points and thus netting you more wins. How real do you think the focus is on Thunder shooting as they had 15 threes in the first quarter?
It seems real to me. And one of the ways that you can tell, not only by the sheer numbers and volume that they're taking, I mean, that's the thing that jumps out the most for sure, but it's also the ones that they're taking. Like last year, for instance, J-Dub really only took great 3-point shots, like wide open. He was very comfortable with those, and he hit those at such a great clip, but he only averaged 3.4 attempts per game. shot him at 43% clip. This year in preseason so far, he's played 3 first halves. He shot 5 threes in each of those first halves. And he's taken some, he's taken some contested ones that he wouldn't take before. He's taken, some that I think are still good shots, but maybe he would have passed up last year for a better shot from a teammate. And then Shai, the fact that he's taking pull-up threes, he's taking catch and shoot threes, he's not hesitating. It's the way that they're shooting and the quality of shots that they're taking. They're still high-quality shots. I just think that last year they would only take the very best. But I think that the efficiency, I agree with Mark Daignault, bump the volume because all these guys can shoot. Even if you take a little less quality shots, the numbers will bear out that this will be an even more efficient team by bumping up that volume from great three-point shooters like J-Dub. Aaron Wiggins last year shot a crazy clip. And SGA, I think that we all believe that SGA can shoot. He just, doesn't do it often. He doesn't get very many catch and shoot opportunities, and maybe he'll get more of those this year.
Yeah, so this team was already a top 5 offense, already the number 1 team 3-point wise percentage, but they have a way to get even better. We'll talk more about that coming up. But sticking specifically on J-Dub and Shai, there's 2 reasons why I think that both of these 3-point shots are real for each player. Starting with J-Dub, like you mentioned a year ago, he was really only taking the comfortable, high efficiency shots where they were clearly wide open. Nobody's going to bite your head off for taking them. And if there was even the slightest modicum of pressure, he would defer and try to find a better shot. I think with J-Dub, what you've seen from him and Chet so far the preseason, blanketed by its exhibition, blanketed by its a small sample size, and that it doesn't really matter. But what you've seen from them so far is the mindset shifting. And that's what has to happen. We can talk all day long about how deep this team is and how great the rotation is and how great the coach is and how great Shai is. But unless that J-Dub and Chet are ready to be a number 2 and number 3 option in the biggest moments, it does not matter. They will not reach their end goals. What they've done in the preseason is attack hard and look for shots, hunt shots, and be more comfortable taking more contested looks. And that's something that comes around differently for every player. You can even look no further to SGA, who came into this role on a team where you couldn't even imagine him deferring to Isaiah Roby and the likes, but he was taking the differential route for him. And you left some games in that second year, third year, wondering why he wasn't shooting more and wanting him to shoot more. And then the flip switched for him. So you can only imagine what that flip is like for J-Dub and Chet, who do have good options to get the ball off to and work for a better shot. But seeing J-Dub take more threes in a spot where he's contested, in a spot where it's not as clean as it was a year ago, I think resonates with how productive and how sustainable this is. And then for Shai, it's not just the fact that he's shooting them, it's that it physically looks different. His shot is smoother, his shot is cleaner, and it's quicker. That's typically a recipe for better 3-point production. And every year, Brandon, we say Shai always gets better over the offseason. But every year we say this has to be as good as it gets, but yet he proves that notion wrong. And I think he's done it again.
Yeah, it's wild. Every single offseason, he somehow seems to improve. And you do feel like, all right, the dude finished second in MVP. He had a real argument to win MVP. He scores 31 a game, literally 31 a game. At such a high efficiency, he improved as a defender. And the big question was, if he ever gets a shot, what if Shai ever develops a true 3-point shot? What if he becomes a threat from behind the line? And it's early. It's only, it was the Olympics, it's preseason, it's training camp, footage. But so far, what we've seen, like you said, the actual mechanics of the shot, the speed of the shot, and the shots that he's taking, the fact that he's taking these pull-up shots and that he's hitting them. If Shai were to truly develop a 3-point shot and take them at a higher clip, and defenders had to worry about that, truly had to worry about that, I don't know how you guard him. You can't really guard him anyways, especially one-on-one. You can't do it. But now with all these other threats across the floor, with J-Dub out there, and Chet out there, and Ihart out there, and Caruso and Dort, and all these guys, Isaiah Joe out there, and now you have to worry about obviously Shai driving to the rim and his mid-range game. But if you have to worry about a 3-point shot as well, I mean, that will truly make him, an impossible guard, at least one-on-one, and take his game to another level that we didn't think he could reach. I mean, we just kind of felt like it was topped out, and like it felt like if he just stayed at that level, that's an MVP level. How can he get better? Well, I mean, I guess he could.
Brandon, walk with me here. Yes or no, the Thunder won 57 games last year?
Yes.
Yes or no, the Thunder had a top 5 offense and top 5 defense last year?
Yes, they did.
Yes or no, the Thunder won 40 games before losing 20, and by every metric in the regular season were bona fide contenders?
Yes, they did. And yes, they were.
Yes or no, the Thunder took the eventual Western Conference champs to a decisive 6-game with a 0-point differential and a PJ Washington explosion and foul away from going 7 in the Paycom Center in their first ever postseason run?
Excruciatingly for Thunder fans, yes, that's true.
Yes or no, this team added Alex Caruso in the offseason just for a simple swap of Josh Giddey, which got them immensely better in terms of fit and in terms of their play style?
No, that can't be true. Just straight up. But, yes, that is. Actually, yeah, the notes say, yeah, that's true.
Yes or no, the Thunder only expended their luxury of cap space to bring in Isaiah Hartenstein and fill their biggest deficiency from a year ago, which is their front court depth?
Yes, they did.
So is it fair to say, Brandon, that the Thunder, who were already bona fide contenders and won 57 games a year ago, got better?
Yes, they did.
And is it fair to say that they added players who continue with the mindset of taking the regular season seriously, which is not a guarantee in Adam Silver's NBA?
That is true. That is a great point. Oh, sorry. Yes or no? Yes.
And Brandon, does it appear through training camp and preseason that internally, before talking Caruso and Hartenstein, the Thunder got better?
Yes, it does.
So then I ask you, what's stopping us from saying this team will be historically great other than the narrative and notion behind it of I just don't want to go that far. I don't want to get on old takes exposed. Like, what is preventing this team from being historic?
So I think the reason that people are hesitant to just take that, one, because they haven't done it yet. So it's nobody wants to say like, yeah, they're going to the finals. Like, they want to see them make the Western Conference Finals first, but like you said, they were one play from a game 7 from making the Western Conference Finals. I think that, the youth still kind of, gives some people some pause. There's always the thought that the Western Conference is just, historically stacked, like 1 through 13, 12, 1 through 12, 13. And some other teams are getting healthy and getting some guys back. So I think it's a combination of these things. But when you lay it out like you just did, the Thunder on paper absolutely got, and it's not just on paper, the Thunder got better. The Thunder absolutely got better. There's no way around it. And they won 57 games last year. Then you could point to like, okay, well, last year they snuck up on people. They surprised people. This year, they're going to be the hunted instead of the hunter and all those things. Look, those teams were trying to beat the Thunder last year. I mean, the Lakers weren't like looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and J-Dub and Chet and being like, oh, circle that easy win. They were trying to beat the Thunder. They're giving their best shot. There's some of that, some truth to that. But ultimately, this was a very, very good team that got better in multiple areas this offseason. And they could have a really, really good season this season based on everything you just said.
And I think to push it further, have the Thunder been anomalies before? I would argue absolutely. This entire thing is an anomaly.
Right. No, that's exactly right. Because they were the youngest team to become the 1 seed. They were the youngest team to win a playoff series. Nobody wants to predict that they'll be the youngest team to win 60 games, to win 65 games, to go to the Western Conference Finals, to go to the NBA Finals, to win the NBA Finals. I think still just the fact that it was so recent that the Thunder were rebuilding and there's still this stigma that they're this really young team and they haven't proven it. I think that's the thing that's giving people pause. But when you look at this roster, you look at the talent, you look at the ways that they've improved, you look at their play style, you look at their mentality and their mindset and how they approach games. This is a team that could have a really special season.
I think if the only thing holding you back from 62 wins, 65 wins, whatever, is it's never been done before. That's not a great reason. I mean, this team has done things that's never been done before this entire time. And no, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They got better and didn't just add players, for example. They didn't just go out and grab Paul George, who's great. And if you can get him to the playoffs, he'd be awesome on this team, but he's not improving you in the regular season because you have to load manage him. You have to account for injuries, etc. They got two guys who are the focal point of their improvement that are absolute dogs and scrappers who are going to play every single night with that intensity needed to go win games. And so if you do believe in this fairy tale land world where people just rolled over and showed their bellies to Oklahoma City last year because they thought the young pups couldn't beat them, I would ask you, who's hunting them? Who is that bloodhound right now going for the Thunder? Because over half the big bad West doesn't care about playing in February. The Thunder do.
Yeah, the Thunder don't take nights off. Like every game, they play every game the same way. Like, you hear over and over the 0-0 mentality. Like, every game, it starts off 0-0. They just want to improve little by little, day by day. They don't look at the expectations. They're looking internally how they can get better. We hear them say that, but they really do mean those things and they take those things seriously. But that's also why, whereas some contenders may take a February game off or a March game off, the Thunder are not going to do that. They don't look at the games that way. They don't look at a Tuesday night game against Charlotte as an easy layup win that they can take the night off. They look as 0-0. That's an NBA team. We got to take them seriously. And that, comes from the top. And the top from Presti to Daigneault to SGA, that's just how this Thunder team operates. And that in the regular season helps you get a lot of wins that maybe some other teams aren't going to get.
And you're right. The 0-0 stuff, the whatever coach speak you want to say, it can fall on deaf ears if it's just coach speak. The thing is, to this point, it hasn't been buzz phrases. It hasn't been just a catch-all to get out of and sidestep a press conference. It's been implemented action. And until that stops happening, you've got to take them at their word because they've proven it out throughout these last couple of seasons that they really do treat games this way. And I mean, the fact that they made the jump to the play-in without Chet was remarkable. And then people were saying, yeah, but they're so young and there's no historical precedent. Maybe just get to the top 6. Maybe get back to the play-in. Can they even do that? And then they're the number 1 overall seed. Again, if the only thing holding you back is we've never seen this happen before, where you been the last 3 years? We've never seen that happen before either. And it did. And so I just think that on the court, you cannot argue any different than for the regular season, and we can talk about the playoffs later. For the regular season, the Thunder have a chance to be a historic team. We'll talk more about what's been exciting in the preseason coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at GameTime. Check out GameTime today because it's the very best place to go get your tickets. Very exciting as hockey returns, football's in full swing, basketball is back in the preseason, regular season right around the corner. Perhaps you've been to the Paycom Center many a times, but you have a set section and a set, angle on the court that you like to sit. You can freely mix it up at GameTime because they have this panoramic view from your seat to know exactly what you're going to buy. So try out new seats around the Paycom Center. Not a bad seat in the house. I love that when you toggle on the all-in pricing, you get everything right up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout. You know exactly what you're getting into at GameTime, who has the last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. They're so confident in that if you somehow in the world find a lower price ticket, they will credit you back 110% of the difference. But that's how confident they are that they have the lowest prices. Go check it out today by downloading the GameTime app, creating your account, and using code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions do apply. Create your account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the GameTime app today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Joining me today is Brandon Rahbar, Daily Thunder beat writer, and 107.7 The Franchise KREF correspondent, and everywhere in the world, including at Brandon Rahbar on Twitter. Brandon, I think that the Thunder will probably not play their regulars on Thursday, and if that's the case, this is kind of the end of the preseason. But even if it's not, what's been the most exciting part of the preseason for you thus far?
I think it has to be seeing Caruso and Hartenstein with the other guys. Everybody knew that these were two of the best role players in the league and that they would fit on any contender. And everybody said they're going to be a seamless fit, but you still want to see it in action. And seeing it in action only confirms what we all thought. These two guys are really good, and they are a seamless fit with this team. It's a small sample size. They're still going to work out some kinks and all those things. But thus far, Caruso and Hartenstein look like they're going to be true difference makers. And it's offensively, it's defensively, it's playmaking. They just both make winning plays over and over, all the things that we've seen and thought that they would be. But seeing it in action, seeing this Thunder team that won 57 games and adding these two dudes to the line, every time you see the Thunder in action over this preseason, there's just dudes all over the court that can play ball. You never really see any time, where, obviously, late fourth quarter minutes, you're seeing more of the two-way players. You're seeing some of the G League guys. But when they're playing their real rotation minutes, all those guys can play. The depth is incredible. And these guys are fitting with every lineup. So I think that's been the most exciting thing. And then I'll also give a nod. I'll also give some credit to Ajay Mitchell and Dylan Jones, the two Thunder rookies that they drafted. I think they've played really, really well. And Ajay Mitchell especially has popped to me. And both of them look like NBA players already. They'll get G League time. They won't play every night, but I do think that we'll see some Thunder minutes this season. I think they'll get in the rotation. I think that, they're older rookies, and I think we'll see them play some. So all the new additions, I guess, would be the most exciting thing.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fair. I think that that's the right answer. I would throw Shai's three-pointing in there, but we've talked about that enough. But for you, the Caruso and Hartenstein thing is a massive deal because it wouldn't have surprised either one of us if the Chet Hartenstein lineups didn't look as seamless as they've looked throughout San Antonio, Houston, and now Denver. As far as preseason samples go, it's a pretty big sample size of those two guys looking comfortable, those two guys playing well off of one another. And this is the first time Chet's ever played with a big man at the Thunder at the NBA level. Of course, he played with Drew Timme and Ike Gonzaga, but this is a much different game, much different setup with Hartenstein. And the fact that they've looked so comfortable so quickly, I think has been huge. And the fact that the rest of the players who are drive-heavy players, mid-range players, have played off of them so well, I think is a massive boost to OKC. Now, you mentioned Ajay Mitchell. Let me start by saying AJ's been fantastic. I mean, his finishing ability, his body control, playing at his own pace, making high-level reads and passes, it's been check, check, check. It's been stuff you never see from a rookie, which is part of the advantage of drafting an older rookie. So that's all been fantastic. However, if there's one thing we know about the Thunder, is that they love flexibility. And they love, love, love the ability to have an open roster spot at the deadline to make moves, in the buyout market, whatever it may be. So I would caution people from jumping the shark of saying they've got to convert him to a standard deal by Saturday. And perhaps they do, but I would caution you to not have that mindset because you have 50 games. This is no longer the old rules of 50 days to where it counted against you if you practice with the team, if you saw on the bench with the team or whatever. You have 50 games to be on the bench and to be in the game with the Thunder. And with how deep this team is, with how contested the rotation is, 50 games is more than enough to bring that leverage into the regular season, to bring that leverage into the deadline and stuff. Because, there was that doubleheader with Houston 2 seasons ago where Wiggins was playing with the blue before the All-Star break because the All-Star break was coming. He hadn't had a sustained run in the NBA in a little bit, and they wanted to make sure that he was going to get up and down a little bit with the G League. And that was a much, much lighter rotation than what Ajay Mitchell's up against. So he's been fantastic in the preseason, but I still think the two-way contract is the way to go until the deadline, which is what they do with Aaron Wiggins as well, of like keeping him on that two-way deal through the deadline. They made that move with, I believe it was Miami, to get Onyi onto the team and immediately cut him and then put Wiggins into that spot. Like they're going to utilize their flexibility, I think, and that's just what's been their MO to this point.
Yeah, the Thunder have a history of this. And, the Thunder, more than any other team, uses their G League team. They use their two-way players. You can go back to Lou Dort and Mark Daigneault, Alex Caruso. Look at this team. It's top heavy with guys that, started in the G League and were two-way players and got rewarded or worked their way up. Not so much rewarded, just they earned it and they proved it. And I think Ajay Mitchell absolutely can be on that path. But I'm with you. The open roster spot is the way to go to keep that flexibility. The Thunder really like doing that, and for good reason. You never know what's going to pop up. And the Thunder, if we know anything, Sam Presti likes to keep flexibility. He likes to have options. But I would say, if I'm predicting, I would say at some point Ajay Mitchell is going to get a standard NBA contract. But I don't think that needs to happen preseason, as we've seen with the Thunder. They are more than happy to do that midseason.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that Ajay Mitchell at the deadline is converted to a standard deal with the rest of this year guaranteed and then non-guaranteed and options on the back end of it. But it's just the flexibility, man. I mean, whenever you have Shai up to 30 minutes, Dort hovering around there, Jalen hovering around there, Chet hovering around there, Isaiah Hartenstein, Caruso hovering around there, not to mention when you get J. Will and you get Kenrich back in this rotation, find me the 50 games before the deadline that you're going to play AJ every single night. As much as he's been great, that's far from a guarantee to where I think that AJ can be awesome for this team. I think that by the end of the year, he can grab a rotational spot if they still lack a table setter and he steps into that role, which I think he will. But you don't got to jump the shark and sign him tomorrow.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, this Thunder team is incredibly deep, and there will be some nights I think that Ajay Mitchell gets some minutes, whether that's because, it's a blowout and he gets fourth quarter minutes, or whether that means that, hey, it's a night where Mark wants to see what he can do in the regular rotation, against the Warriors or against the Lakers, or who knows? We don't know. We know that Mark Daigneault likes to reward practices. He likes to reward hard work. He likes all the guys to be ready and could play any given night. They don't know necessarily when they're going to get to play. So I do think that Ajay Mitchell and Dylan Jones will get, kind of sporadic minutes and be in the rotation here and there. But absolutely 100% agree. Leave that spot open for now and reward him at midseason with a standard contract. I think it's coming.
Totally. And I think that to cover all of our bases here, I think AJ is going to play in the first 3 games because the Thunder are so good. It sets up for blowout potential. The stuff coming out of Denver right now is not great. I'm not going to say they're going to blow out the Nuggets, but then you go to Chicago, who you just overmatch entirely. And if that's not a blowout in one way or another, the Sunday doubleheader, the Sunday back-to-back with a noon tip time on travel back-to-back, that is prime blowout territory one way or another. So I think that these two rookies will play the first week of the year, and they'll play a lot throughout the season leading up to the deadline. But again, 50 games is so long that you do not have to relinquish that flexibility yet. You will have to at the deadline. And then I think that there's a chance that he's been so good and that he can be a backup point guard, table setter, or whatever, that he plays a larger role than we expected. But I just think the name of the game is flexibility. Brandon, this was a lot of fun. The preseason has been so fun for Thunder fans. Even whenever nobody played against New Zealand, Dylan Jones went off, Oos went off against New Zealand in Tulsa. Brandon, let them know where they can find all your great stuff and how excited you are for this season.
They can find me at dailythunder.com. You can find me at the Franchise Radio, KREF, OKC Dream Team, along with Rylan. And I'm on Twitter at Brandon Rahbar. And I am excited for this season. Rylan and I have been covering this team for a while, and I've enjoyed every single season. I enjoyed the rebuild. I enjoyed watching these guys, kind of start from the bottom and work their way to contender status. And so I'm just excited to see this team, kind of seize this moment. There's a national spotlight on this team now and a lot of expectations put on this team. but we've seen this Thunder team exceed expectations every step of the way. We've seen that, like, there's been no challenge too big. They always seem to rise to the occasion and surprise you. So I'm excited in this kind of new era of contending Thunder to see this team perform. I think it's going to be a really fun, really exciting season for Thunder fans.
It's going to be a ton of fun. Brandon, thank you for joining us as always. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.